GM, GM. Friday, 23rd of February. Let's look at daily levels. So, the most anticipated breakdown ever, right? Everyone's like, oh, big flush coming. So, I don't think so. I think people will be disappointed. But I do think it's likely that we see a little bit of downside here, but nowhere near to the extent that people are looking for. And I think it's kind of funny. So people who were sidelined and who missed the whole rally are talking about the big flush coming and all this kind of stuff. I don't see that at all. So not bearish even remotely, but I do think that if price was being held up above 50 before the options expiry, which I've talked about all week, it's now post options expiry. We could easily dip below that, head towards 50, see if there's demand there. I fully expect there to be demand down there, and don't think that Bitcoin goes a whole lot deeper than that. Now, global open interest, global funding. So my gauge of what I can see is that most people have missed all of this move online. They were bearish at the bottom, as we know, and they were coping all the way up. And so I only see, if we're looking just at Bitcoin, I only see that people started getting in this area, started getting long around this area. And for alts, they've started to get long since that. So I'll show it over here. Same thing, right? This steady grind up was when people were saying, oh, it's not safe. You shouldn't go long yet. It's not actually bullish, blah, blah, blah. And then people started getting long up in here. So to me, there's a buildup of maybe 1.5 billion. We've already taken out like 1.4. So, I don't think there's a whole lot to be really bearish about here. But I do think that some kind of sell off or some small downside can come. The point I want to make here is if it goes lower, don't start expecting it to go lower. Remember that, like, if you're planning to buy the dip, remember that if the dip comes and it's like that, that's the dip to buy. That's it. If it goes deeper, great. But it's not going to go like this, fucking like everyone seems to think it will. So, anyway, I just think that it's really simple. People who've got long up here on the last, they got long here and they came down kind of double bottomed. They got protected there and they stayed long. It's just everyone who's long in here with a tight stop at 50.6 down towards 50. It's just they're so easily just gonna get wicked out. But I think that as soon as we tag the actual 50k round number, if we hit it again, or even just dip below it, that's gonna get bought back up. And maybe we just go back up into this consolidation, then go lower after. But I'm expecting a bounce from here. Now, in the meantime, Total 3 has been outperforming a little bit. Total 2, obviously, with Ethereum, has been performing pretty well too. But across the, how long are we up here now? Since 15th, 14th, 24, almost 10 days. Total 3 has had, here we go, I'll just put them side by side so you can see them. Bitcoin moved up into its highs. So Bitcoin went sideways since kind of 15th. Total 3 went higher, dipped down into a lower high and over here. So there's no like sustained multi-week, multi-day even outperformance of Total 3. It made a slight higher high over here while Bitcoin went sideways. And then basically they're both in lockstep. So I don't see this big fucking nuke potential that everyone's talking about. This to me is just people getting bearish at the lows again. They're getting bearish at the lows again. There's no reason to suspect that Bitcoin will do anything other than bounce here, if not 50k. I do think, just as I said, that anyone's stops that are built up at this double bottom, now that OPEX is over and there's less reason to defend 50, I do think we can see a flush down. But I'm ready to buy the very first flush. This is a bull market. And when I say I'm ready to buy it, doesn't mean I'm going to. I'll talk about that on trade of the day. I'll talk about some Bitcoin setups. But this is a bull market, right? We've just touched the the other day, depending on which exchange you're on, we came up to the 12 EMA on the daily. The daily bands are in a strong uptrend. Bitcoin hasn't even tested them, fully, and people are talking about these crazy flushes and shakeouts and all this kind of stuff. People are just they're offside. That's it. To me, people are completely offside. They're not long. They want massive dips. But if the massive dip come, they wouldn't buy it anyway. And I don't think there's going to be a massive dip. Shallow dips. And away we go. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin ends up just consolidating here for another little bit. I would say maybe takes out the lows, chops around a bit at 50s, in the 50s, and then goes higher. Now, for me to get like adding longs or getting aggressive, obviously I'm still fully spot long and fully long my AKT and a bit of Ethereum. To add to it, I do want to see some kind of trading setup, which would be like the sweep. As for ETH looks fine to me. It's moved up into a high. Time to have a bit of a sideways consolidation. That's really it, right? There's, if you're too zoomed in, you look at this and you're like, oh, that's bearish, or like double top or rounded top, or it's not. It's nothing. It's literally nothing. ETH has moved up. It can easily have a pullback and then go sideways, but you just are not going to get rewarded with deep pullbacks. Like when people miss the move, it's very unlikely that it's going to come all the way back down to 2,500. Because I just don't believe that many people are actually long here, as many as you would think. If they are long, in my opinion, they get long at the top. And I would say, go back to Bitcoin and let me see. Let's get two charts on a 4 hour and compare Bitcoin and total two so we can see what the difference is. Because I think some people will have started to ape into Ethereum. And if you compare these two, I would look at it like this. So all the way up, you got Bitcoin outperforming Ethereum. Then Ethereum starts to finally have a bit of outperformance and catch up over at this part here, right? Get a bit of that. There we go. So BTC sideways / slightly down. Ethereum from here continued higher. So a very small divergence, but a divergence nonetheless, where Ethereum in this little box, and then you can include all of this, because basically since here, Ethereum started to clearly outperform. So Ethereum started to push a bit more, and Bitcoin didn't, right? So that's showing Bitcoin versus total two, which is the total cap excluding Bitcoin. So all the altcoins, including Ethereum, had that little period of outperformance. And if you look at ETH itself, which is pretty much shown on that other one, but if you look at ETH by itself, you can see slightly more strength. Not a massive amount, but slightly more. And this to me is just showing up, right? Again, the basis of all this is that I fully believe, let me see here, you can see there that ETH has broken out, right? So ETH has broken out and is actually holding above its breakout level. So total two, including alts, has outperformed and led Bitcoin slightly, but is weaker. Bitcoin going sideways, Ethereum clearly stronger. And the basis of all this is I think that people were not long ETH. Now they've got long ETH, but I think they've got long ETH up here. So like above 2,800. And you can see a quick flush, but then that's it, and away it goes. So how would that look for ETH itself? if we just look at ETH by itself, I would say the main thing I'm expecting here is nowhere near as deep of a dip as people want, because that's the point. They were wrong. They're going to continue to be wrong. That's just how it goes. I don't make the rules. I'd say maybe it takes out all of these stops here. Maybe it just grabs those stops and away it goes. So until something majorly changes, there's absolutely nothing here that's making me feel like there's any kind of local, like, significant top. It's not long since the bottom, right? We're maybe 3 weeks since the most recent bottom, which was a significant bottom after the ETF selling and after even if you look for Ethereum, Ethereum's been in a consolidation since the start of December, right? Consolidate, pushed up, was not a new trend. It broke out, false breakout, back down, consolidate. So consolidated from 10th of December to 10th of Feb, pretty much. So 2 months, and it's just broken out. So Ethereum has just broken out of a 2-month consolidation. Okay. And we are now what? Like fucking 10 days into that? Not even 8 days in, with no blow off top, no big move. This is just not the time to get bearish. So important to say that, because when I talk about things like not everyone, some people really overreact to what I say. And when I say this morning, like, I think that we can go to 50K on Bitcoin, people seem to take this because it's, I think we might go down to test 50K today. And like, people take that to mean, oh, Michael's like, wow, bearish, holy shit. Let's get our fucking target set. Let's get out the liquidation maps. Let's go. Oh, we're going to, there's a big pool at 46, massive liquidations coming. No, like, again, obviously it can do that. But people, like, a lot of times you can overreact as soon as you think that there's some kind of possible pullback coming. It's easy to really overreact. I really don't see any reason, with ETH looking like that, Bitcoin looking like this, with the ETFs back to bullish flows again, with 50K round number being a big psychological level, with halving coming up and Bitcoin looking like this, strong as fuck, with everything, and so on and so on and so on. Like, I see nothing that would make me bearish here. I just don't see it. Gaps below, sure, but what does that even mean? Nothing. Gaps don't have to get filled, and they won't get filled quite often, and they can get filled later, right? Like, same as people waiting for these gaps here. Maybe Bitcoin is supposed to be above all-time high already. Maybe it's going to go up, right, into the halving, come back down, fill all those gaps in that everyone's talking about, and then away it goes again. There's a million ways it can move. And just with the combination of price action plus sentiment already, I see people on my Twitter timeline, like, talking about bulls are fucked, turning bearish, talking about, like, big shakeouts. It's just, they've missed every part of this move. That's my key takeaway. Like, most people have missed every part of this move. They missed the Bitcoin long, they missed the Ethereum long, because they're trying to be too smart. They de-risked after the ETF. Instead of just holding fucking spot in a bull market, they didn't. They sold or shorted or whatever. They missed those runs. But also, the rally we just had with AI, it's so obvious that people missed this. It's so obvious. They didn't own any render. They didn't own any fetch. They didn't own any AKT. They don't own any fucking BitTensor. Because most people, and again, I'm going off, what I can see on my feed, most people just faded. They just straight up faded AI. They were buying all these fucking dog shit, like new layer ones and fucking layer twos and all this shit. They were longing a bunch of old crypto nonsense and not realizing that AI is just by far the most pumpable sector. And so they've missed that. And so they want a pullback, right? They've missed that move and they want a pullback. But when you miss the move through your own laziness or arrogance, you don't get to get another pullback. Do you understand? Like, it's just not how it works. So, that's pretty much all that's on my mind now. The 48K pivot, that's like my perfect level. But trade of the day, I'll deep dive into some Bitcoin trades, Bitcoin ideas, and maybe take a look at ETH as well. That's it. GM, GM, GM.